Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Hope you're having a fantastic day, at least a better one than me. I got waylaid by a migraine, rough day. So I had a bunch of stuff to do, some videos I want to get out to because believe it or not, there's actually a lot of WNBA stuff going on. And I definitely wanted to get this out right away when I saw it because this is kind of huge. One last hurrah for Caitlin Clark and her fans. And then and then I have something really funny to show you later in the video after we talk about this rating stuff. You've got to see what this guy, this dude, this commentator said at ESPN, just to give you an idea to understanding the brilliant intellects that we were we were dealing with. But as you can see, Clark's season finale among best ever WNBA audiences. Check this out. We're going to go here first. Fever Sun Game 2, most viewed WNBA game ever on cable. 2.5 million viewers, peaked at 3.4 million viewers. Then the Phoenix Mercury and Lynx played right after. I'm guessing a lot of Fever fans kept their TV on just because, even if they walked away from it. You know how you got a lot of people that just had their TVs on. Still less than half of the Fever game that led into them. Now 1.2 is huge, huge for the WNBA. As we know, they haven't had a million viewer season, a million viewer game in a season since 2008. They've had, I think, like 26 now this season, 22 of them with Caitlin Clark. The other three of the other four are like connected to Caitlin Clark, like a couple let in. This one was after. So that's still a huge number, but obviously more than cut in half from the game before it. So we have, just to give you an idea of the breakdown, the first round playoff game 2, averaged 2.54 million viewers. Largest audience ever on cable for the WNBA, the 10th largest overall. And I know you're probably like, wow, only the 10th? But hold on. Also, only one of two games this season to rank among the league's top 10, which, of course, the All-Star game, we know, crushed it. But that was over on ABC, 3.44 million. And here is why. All of these top games were in the first few years of the WNBA season. If you may recall, the WNBA had everything going for it in terms of the start of a professional league and being able to be successful because they had the connection with the NBA. They had the NBA funding it because of the power and pull of the NBA, whose, by the way, ratings at that time were insane compared to what they are now. The NBA is like cut in half, cut in a third, something like that. They were in their heyday back then. So they had a lot of pull. So it's like, they could say, hey, you want to show our games? You got to take some WNBA games. You had Michael Jordan in his prime going around doing stuff with Cheryl Swoops to try and make her the face of the league. So those first few years, they had everything going for them, and it was a novelty, and you had people supporting it. Then they realized, you know what, this product's not that great. I've got other things to do with my time. And that was the plummet of the WNBA, and it's been treading water for the past 20 years. Yes, 20 plus years of no growth. I know they say there's growth, but I looked into it. I did it in a video. I showed you that chart. That was for attendance. But again, million viewer game in 2008. All the top viewed games were back in like between 97 and 2000, 2001. Past 20 years, nothing. Past 20 years, nothing. This game trailed only the All-Star game, as I just mentioned, and it's the most watched since 2000. Liberty Comments did 2.74 million, and it's the most watched playoff game since deciding Game 3 back in '99, which did 3.25 million, and those aired on NBC, not cable. Absolutely crazy numbers. This year's postseason, only the first round, has the 4 largest playoff audiences since, again, 2003. Like I said, it's treaded water for 20 years. 2 of them are the Fever Sun, Mercury Lynx, which came after the Fever Sun, and then the Tuesday Storm Aces game on its own, but that did less than a million, only 988,000. Again, great for the WNBA, relatively speaking, not very good overall. It's not a good number for a growing league that wants to start taking charter flights and paying its players more. It doesn't have the viewership for that. It doesn't have the support. Now, the first round averaged 1.1 million, but again, as we know, that is completely skewed because of the two Fever Sun games. Without those two games, it's a bit of a nightmare. As I mentioned, the game, and it was Candace Parker's career debut in 2008, got the million plus. From 09 to 23, the top audience was 913,000. That was a deciding game 5 of the 2017 finals. And that figure has been surpassed 28 times this season. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So as you can see, the top audiences are all, you got the All-Star game from this year and there, but then it's all the beginning of the league, right? 97, 97, 99, 98, 97, 2000, 99, 98, and then 2024, first round, Fever Sun, Game 2, ESPN, largest ever cable audience for the WNBA. And that, of course, is also the end of the Indiana Fever season. So what does that mean going forward? Well, I'm glad you asked because, like I said, there's been a lot of stuff going on. I was actually going to save this for another video, but it dovetails in here so nicely that I feel like we've got to mention it. We've got this guy, David Dennis Jr. I did a video on him a while back, and we're going to mention what that was about here as well. We won't get into it in detail, but you'll understand at least what it was about. The ESPN commentator, not qualified in any way, shape, or form for his job. He's there for a very specific reason, and it's to throw intellectually shallow bombshells like this one. So, David Dennis Jr., employed by ESPN, keep in mind how important that is. I hope the people who say they are staying away from the WNBA now that Caitlin Clark is gone actually keep to their promise. Dennis posted on X on Thursday. These are about to be all-time series, and their toxicity isn't needed. Let us enjoy things. Oh, David, you're never going to be accused of toxic masculinity, my friend. It's just not in you. And by toxic masculinity, of course, I mean, normal manliness. It's not for you. And I understand that. It's not for everyone. Now, to the point of that comment, again, understand, and here as Ryan says, David Dennis Jr. is employed by ESPN. The games are going to be on ESPN property. I believe all of the games for this next round coming up have been moved to ESPN2. So David, in all his intellectual brilliance that practically blinded me, does not want you to watch the network that pays him. He does not want the network that pays him to make money. See, they paid to have these games on, and now they need enough viewers to charge the advertisers enough to make up for what they paid and to have money left over so that they can pay people like employee David Dennis and stay in business. David Dennis apparently wants to be unemployed. Now, I would never call for that. However, if ESPN were a serious business, those in charge, of course, would most likely let David Dennis go because it's probably not something you want as a business to have an employee that is trying to put you out of business. Make sense? I think it makes sense. Let me put it another way. You own a small restaurant. You have in the city, maybe, I don't know, but you have an employee that's at the door. And anyone who's coming up to the door to come in, they're saying, no, we don't want you here. Go away. How long are you keeping that employee on your payroll? Just a question. Because if you keep them on too much longer, you're probably not going to have your restaurant anymore. Now, granted, ESPN's so big and they're owned by Disney and they've got the whole shady stuff going on with cable companies where they don't need ratings because they get paid $7 per person that has cable. regardless of whether they watch ESPN. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. I'm just trying to make the point that it's probably not the type of employee that you would want. Now, David, back in the day, oh yeah, first, I think I had the number here. Well, like they said, the loss of Clark, it's huge for the WNBA. It's huge for ESPN. I mean, no team sport in America, as it says here, more dependent upon one player in terms of national viewership than the WNBA is on Caitlin Clark, right? So that's kind of a problem. ESPN, if the Caitlin Clark fans tune out, the ratings can't be very good. Of course, as it says here also, which I laugh at anyone who uses the word toxic. If I use it, I apologize when I do, because I'm just using it because you'll understand what I mean, but I don't like the word. It's just another one of those made up words. And when I say made up, I mean in terms of definition and how it's used to convey certain things. It's lazy. Mentally, it's lazy is what it is. But calling them toxic is just, they don't share my opinions on absolutely everything, and it hurts my feelings. So, like, therefore, they're toxic. And we can't have them be toxic, because toxic is bad. Of course, as we all know, her fans are normal fans. They're passionate. They cheer their team. They criticize their team when they're not doing well. And of course, they do not in any way, shape, or form like the way the league has treated Caitlin Clark. David Dennis, I said, remember that name? We did a video before, and I'm not going to play him here again. But David Dennis, back earlier in the season, made this ridiculously silly speech that Caitlin Clark, because of her privilege, I don't know what privilege that is, but I'm sure David could explain it to you. Because of that privilege, she had a moral obligation. Isn't it interesting that David thinks he has the moral superiority and the moral power to say who does and does not have a moral obligation to say something that he wants them to say? But he says she has a moral obligation to speak out for the people that assault her. Yes, like Kennedy Carter, that Caitlin Clark should speak out and defend the behavior of Kennedy Carter, or the mustard, or Angel Reese, who as is on Twitter now trying to rewrite history and get sympathy and crying about all the stuff she's dealt with ever since beating Iowa in the final. Don't forget, that's the Angel Reese who immediately stood up and cheered enthusiastically when Kennedy Carter blindsided Caitlin Clark in their game. So here you have it, folks. Massive ratings for the Fever. Huge drop off to the Mercury game following. Fools like David Dennis so caught up in their bubble of, I don't want to say hatred because that seems extreme, but I don't know what else to use than when you have somebody who's literally saying, don't watch the network that employs me because I dislike you that much. I mean, I don't know what else to call it, but obviously he's not thinking straight. I mean, he's got something going on in his head that just doesn't allow him to think. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. I could go on and on about this nonsense for a while, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below on the numbers. What do you think the numbers are going to be like coming up? And then, of course, feel free to tell me about David's brilliance in telling you to boycott the network that pays for him. And one last thing I would add that's kind of funny is I think the numbers will obviously not be Clark Fever numbers, but I think they'll be a little better than what some might expect, simply because I've noticed lately there are a number of Fever fans that have sort of got the whole Stockholm syndrome thing, and they all of a sudden seem to be seeking the approval of the people that have verbally abused them all season long and are saying the most horrific things about them. And now they're out there like talking about these articles that say all these great things, and then I go and look at the article and it's trashing the Fever fans and it's trashing Caitlin Clark, and it's saying there shouldn't be free speech on Twitter, and Clark fans are like, this thing's so great. It's weird, but anyway, I'll do that in another video in case you haven't seen that, because I think it struck me as odd. And who knows, maybe just like the trolls saying nasty stuff aren't actually Fever fans, maybe I got taken in by people posing as Fever fans. Oh, it's a crazy world. But let me know your thoughts on all this in the comments below. Thanks for checking out this video. I'm going to take a nap. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will talk to you later.